being a separate stream. Not sure what's going on with the live stream that was set up for this, but we will go ahead and get started. I'm just going to switch myself over to the other live stream so I can answer questions there. Let's see. Happy New Year to everybody. We're here at Lexington charge point station. You can see a diverse array of cars, or at least here. Let's see what we got. 3 Teslas, 1 Model Y, 2 Model 3s, and another Chevy Volt EV in the background charging up here. I didn't want to take the last place, so I left that and thought we could watch the cars, see if anyone interesting shows up. But interesting, you've already got one of the big 2021 models up there. So let's see. Yes, indeed. Happy New Year. I hope this one is much better. I think, you know, the first thing to say is that last year was obviously insane, but for electric vehicles, you know, we've got a decent amount of headway, you know, with the launch of the Model Y and, you know, a lot of new vehicles kind of on the cusp with the Mach-E, the ID.4, a bunch of others coming up in 2021. Last year was kind of a turning point, I guess. A lot of delays, though, to production, a lot of, you know, new vehicles that maybe would have had more come out in the latter part of 2020, kind of pushed into 2021. Obviously, the Volt EV mid-cycle refresh being one of them, and maybe the Volt EUV as well. So there's a bunch of, you know, exciting cars coming up in 2021, and that's kind of part of the reason I wanted to jump on today. First day of the year. Just wish everyone a happy new year. Say, you know, right up front, thank you for watching last year. It was a good one for the channel. We had past 1,000 subscribers, did not as many road trips as we would have hoped, but a bunch of good ones. And hopefully 2021 is going to be, you know, even bigger. We're hopefully going to get across the pond a bit more and scout out some of the UK EV rentals, look at some of the European only models, that kind of thing. Get across, obviously, to see my parents who are over there. Also do a lot more of other EVs on the road in the US here. So we've already got, you know, starting to look at early looks at the Ford Mustang Mach-E. We did the Polestar 2 test drive down in New York. So that's, you know, the cusp of what I'd like to do with the channel going into 2021. You know, still cover a lot in the Volt EV. This is a 3-year lease and we're only into the 2nd year here, so we've got plenty of time to spend with this car still. But, you know, we are actively looking now at the next generation of EVs and which ones will work for our family. Mach-E being up front there with the ID.4, Nissan Ariya coming down the way as well later this year. So kind of open this up to everybody. I'm going to look down occasionally. I've got the live stream in front of me so I can check out the question stream coming in. Yes, I do live in Massachusetts. We are just north of Boston, so all the way over on the East Coast. Right now, this is Lexington, Massachusetts, so this is one of our favorite watering holes for electric vehicles. It's always quite busy. You know, this is a paid parking lot, but it is free charge point station. So in this particular portion of it, there's 5 here. One is free right now, which I've left open just in case anyone needs it, but you'll see the Volt EV charging over my shoulder here, a couple of Tesla Model 3s and the Model Y. So a lot of those are already showing up. This is the first place we saw a Model 3, first place we saw a Model Y, so it's not too surprising to see them all gathered here. But this is one of the places that I'll typically come to charge up. You know, we'll have it's right on the edge of the coffee shops, the restaurants, that kind of thing, so it's a good place locally for us. So yeah, as other people join, I see a few people jumping in here. Happy New Year to you. I hope everything has kind of gone at least quietly over the holiday period, if not, you know, as much fun as usual. Thank you for joining us here. Let some other people join in here. If you have any questions, please just put them down in this live chat right here. We'll be able to see those and I can answer as they come up. But this is a Coffee and Kilowatts live, so I've got the coffee, the kilowatts are over my shoulder, which we will plug into eventually. Let's see, Bolt sales predictions. And whilst we're here, that came from the London Broiler. Check out his channel. He has all kinds of stuff on there. He was one of the first people I knew to do a cross-country Bolt EV run, did the Cannonball run before Electrify America had officially completed their cross-country routes. Although it was obviously possible because he did it. Some great stuff with the Bolt EV in Hyattsville, Maryland, who that's again, I think they had a police car, the first Bolt EV police car. So there's lots of good stuff. Go and check out London Broiler's channel if you can. After this, hopefully. Let's see. Live in Massachusetts, but electricity prices are quite expensive. Does it make sense to get an EV? I think so, yeah. I mean, I do understand Massachusetts is on the higher end. I think after all said and done, we pay a little bit less than 20 cents a kilowatt hour now. But we find, at least around Boston area, there's places like this, there's a lot of free charging. So you can kind of, if you can offset it a little bit with places you plug in, whether it's Volta stations at grocery stores, movie theaters, although that's obviously not relevant at the moment so much, but hopefully some of those will keep going. Then places like this, municipal parking lots, if you visit local town centers or you have errands, amenities that you visit around these town centers, most of them, at least in the kind of central to eastern Massachusetts now, will have this kind of free or very low cost charging. So we find it offsets that. We do charge at home to full, especially before road trips overnight, but you know, quite often we'll just plug in around town and kind of top up. So very much depends on your use case, but I do think, you know, if you're in a ZEV state, certainly Massachusetts is one of those that makes sense to get an electric vehicle. Let's see. Are you going to take a Mach-E for a test drive? Yes, I've been waiting. I just read that the first deliveries happened towards the end of last month, so I think Ford did squeeze in a few Mustang Mach-E deliveries, but there's not going to be very many of them on the roads. There's a great channel, I think it's Patrick over in Colorado. He has the Mach-E vlog channel. So he's going to get one pretty soon in January. I think he's going to be a go-to resource for kind of first real owner driving impressions, but it's high on our list as a car to get for the family, you know, just as our own kind of personal use. So it's going to be one that we try and test drive as soon as possible. All indications from the first drives that showed up middle of last month kind of show that it's performance orientated by the sounds of it. So you're going to get more of a sporty feel from it by the sounds of it. That would be more for me than my family, who don't maybe want to go on the winding roads and crazy drives, but I think you get a nice mix of stuff. Let's see, what else have we got? There's some laughing going on here. Do we have any sense of the federal state incentives? Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to discuss. You know, as we look at EV trends in 2021, I do think as long as we remain relatively clear, you know, EV adoption will start to spike again with the cars that are coming in. It's quite a disparity at the moment because you have the companies that really pushed EVs hard, obviously Tesla being the biggest, but, you know, GM, for whatever people want to say about it, started off with the Volt that ate up a good 3/4 of their federal tax credits, and then, you know, the Bolt kind of took up the last 50,000. So we have two American companies that produced EVs early kind of being disadvantaged at the moment because, you know, now Ford, VW, all the other producers can come in and say they have $7,500 immediately off the, you know, well, not immediate because you have to file that, and it's coming back on your taxes if you have that much owed. But, you know, they have a pretty significant price reduction in the long term for those vehicles. So the mooted point was that the new administration, without going too close into politics, will change the system, if you like, to allow GM and Tesla back in. We really don't know anything about that yet, so it's you know, kind of up in the air. But the idea is, you know, if there's, one of the points I wrote down was 500,000 new charging points apparently, you know, by 2030 from the new administration. So obviously that is, again, details need to be fleshed out, but it's a pro electric vehicle environment to work in, so it makes sense that companies that have kind of moved forward would, like GM and Tesla, would be given, you know, more of an uplift to try and bring them back into the game. But you know, it's watch and wait. You know, at the moment the state incentives are pretty good in some places. You know, Colorado I think has $4 or $5 grand off EVs at the moment. We still have 2,500 in Massachusetts here, all at the state level. So if you're looking at any of those new cars, like a Mach-E ID4 from VW, Nissan Ariya further down the line, they still have probably 50 or 60,000 EV tax credits, even with good sales of the Leaf. So yeah, it's, you know, something to watch. I would expect fairly soon we'll know And watch over my left shoulder here is another Tesla Model Y pulling in. So what have we got? Is it a Y? No, it's a 3, sorry. Not quite as high. So this is why I left it. Because as you see here, this guy will pull in and plug in. So now they have space for these guys. But there's all kinds going on. Yep. So let me take a quick sip and refresh myself. So these are 5 J1772 plugs here, charge point stations. They did start out with 3, and those were expanded last year. So you have these guys, 5 here. In another adjacent lot, there's another 2 stations with 4 plugs, and then same again across the road. So you have 13 plugs in a town that's relatively small, but it does have a good main street here. So this is a great location. You know, there's behind me, you'll probably see the bike path, people zipping up and down just above the cars there. And so there's a lot of activity here, and it's a popular place to juice up your EV. Let me see what other questions we've got going on. Soon to be Makiona would like to hear about your experiences charging with Electrify America. Up and down, we have, you know, there's a lot of road trips that we've done on the channel where you'll see the best and worst of Electrify America. My hope is, fingers crossed, that Mach-E owners will get significantly better experiences than we've had, partially because, you know, we've been there and done it. So you have owners kind of, you know, bridging the way to them having a more reliable network, getting the reports back and fixing the stations. So that's hopefully a positive. But Mach-E in general, with the plug and charge technology, there was one video from Tom Mologney who showed that working fairly smoothly. Others haven't been able to get it quite so seamless. But the idea is that, you know, that just is almost replicating the Tesla scenario then. So you just plug in the car, off it goes in the background, works out your payment, works out your charging capacity, and it just goes to the races. So my hope is that Mach-E owners will be the first wave of new electric car owners to have a much better, you know, easier experience with Electrify America. If you check down here again. Tesla adapter for DC fast chargers. Honestly don't know. I'm not sure that's going to be quite as much as it's cracked up to be. They seem to say that the one that they've been importing, it's gone into the South Korea market. For anyone that doesn't know, just before Christmas they had a Korean manufactured CCS adapter for the North American standard that they also use in South Korea. So those allow a Tesla vehicle with the supercharger connection or the Tesla connector to plug into this adapter and use it on a CCS1, I think it is. CCS2, I think is Europe. I'd have to double check that. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But so those have been starting to trickle through to the US now. We see a few people, but it seems to be limited in voltage. I think it's 200 volts, which means they may get 60 or 70 kilowatts, possibly, probably lower than that. So it doesn't necessarily give much of a bigger advantage than the CHAdeMO connector, at least in terms of speed. Obviously, there are far more CCS connectors around the country now, with Electrify America having, you know, 7-to-1 ratio at most of their sites at least. So I think it'll be useful, but honestly, if I was a Tesla owner, I would be, you know, maybe putting one in the car for road trips. But again, you know, most of the time you're going to be using the supercharger network. It's not going to factor into the in-car navigation for Tesla owners, because they're going to, you know, look at the system. It's going to tell them about superchargers, not Electrify America. So let's see, did he pull away? Yeah, so another one's opened up there. That's the Model Y leaving here. Yeah, so I think it will be useful, but it seems to be more of a backup to me. You know, it's something that you'd probably have to pay $500, $600 for. It's not going to be as fast as a supercharger. It's not going to be factored into your navigation. So nice backup to have if you're on a road trip, but broadly, these things work pretty well for Tesla as they are. So, you know, if it does come online, then Electrify America certainly needs more custom. You know, every time we go to Electrify America site, it's very rare to see more than one car charging. Occasionally, on the very rare occasions, I've had 1 or 2 because they couldn't start a charge on the other station, have to, you know, occupy the only stations that are available. But 3, I think, is the maximum I've seen at a 4-stall EA site. So I wouldn't expect to see that be a negative, at least for now. As we get forward, you know, and start to see more cars coming on the market, who knows how the utilization of these stations will pan out. It's going to have to be a moving target, you know, as more cars come on the market. They may need to expand some stations, but we'll also get a lot more stations coming online. So yeah, we'll see as we go. I hope at the moment, I think there's plenty of capacity at Electrify America sites, so I don't think overutilization is going to be a problem, at least for the moment. Let's see other questions. Large family of 6 looking for an EV minivan. The only thing that would go at the moment would be the hybrid Chrysler Pacifica, which a lot of people do swear by. I don't think you get a huge mileage on that, but it would certainly take care of local runs if you're able to charge overnight. The other end of the spectrum is obviously, you know, Tesla Model X, which is just a very niche product. You know, it depends if you're in that market, you could use it for that. There will be 7-seater options on the Model Y, but again, that doesn't really cover minivan territory. Those second seats in the back are going to be pretty much dog seats or very small child seats. So at the moment, not so much. The Chrysler Pacifica hybrid would be probably the best I could say at the moment. Any idea why Chevy claims USA made batteries for the Bolt aren't safe? Are safe. To me, it seems like, you know, maybe they have a bit more control over the manufacturing there. They have a better, you know, overview of what's going on. But again, to be honest, you know, think how long it's taken for these fires from again, this is a small recall, you know, 5 instances of fires in 3 years, but none of it really showed up until the end of 2020 or middle of 2020, I guess. Before that, you know, we hadn't heard a great deal. There was one in Ukraine, I think, in maybe 2019. So over 3 going on, you know, 3 years of model years Bolt for the 2017, 18 and 19, you really don't have many instances. So it took some time for them to happen, be investigated, have people complain a bit more, see a pattern for these things and start to have to do the recall. So it may be that, you know, the 2020 here and the 2019s that were made in Michigan, the packs that were made in Michigan are not any better, not any more safe from those fires, and we'll see stuff coming out. Or it could just be the different chemistry has kind of mitigated the risk of that, and they, having gone on to a next generation of the battery, they have you know, more control over the process, have a better eye on what needs to be done. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me to see a fire here or there in as 2020s, you know, become more common and have a bit more use on them. You just start to, you know, it's going to happen. This happens with every EV to some extent. There's always some incident or some, you know, quality control issues at the first hurdle. So I don't know. I mean, I think with, you know, almost 6 figures of Bolt EV sales over the 4 model years so far, I don't consider it a massive recall. It's just, again, you know, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully that fix is coming for the 2017 to 2019 model years that were made in Korea, and we'll have some better idea of how LG Chem and GM are working together to mitigate that risk. Let's see. What else? Bolt EV sales predictions for 2021. I mean, for everybody who, you know, maybe doesn't pay as close attention to the Bolt as some of us do, we have you see how busy the stations here are. We now have a Prius Prime plugin setting up on that one that just got vacated. So yeah, the Chevy Volt EV model year 2021 was supposed to be the model year that got the mid-cycle refresh, so you're not getting the seat complaints, which, by the way, I have no real major complaints about. But you know, it's 2021 was supposed to be the year they rectified all those things internally in the car, from the design of the seats and the comfort factors. A lot more creature comforts in here because it has been criticized for being a little bit sparse and kind of dated in terms of driver technology and that kind of thing. Also, exterior is going to get a refresh, but that with COVID, that got pushed to the 2022 model year. So I do think they're just starting to roll out the 2021s now, but it will be almost the same as the 2020 model year, with, I think, now DC fast charging comes as standard on Premiers, and they changed some of the colors, but, you know, there's nothing major happening to the 2021 Bolt EV sales predictions. they could actually be cannibalized a little bit. You know, I do like the extra range in the 2020 here, but people seem to be picking up 2020, 2017 used EVs, Bolt EVs for, you know, down into the 15,000s or below. If you can get a, you know, very low 30,000 mile Bolt EV from 2017, aside from the, you know, lingering question of the pack and the recall, it's a bargain. You know, that is so cheap for an EV, which I do think will run, you know, hundreds of thousands of miles. It makes sense to go used for me in that case, if that's, you know, price and budget is your premier concern. So yeah, I wouldn't expect them to have significant acceleration unless they change the MSRP, but I think you're going to see very little effort put into pushing the Bolt, you know, 2021 Bolt EV, and probably a lot more UCGM already focusing on the Bolt EV for 2022 and the Bolt EUV. So I would expect to see the sales push go in that direction, and you know, this car that we're in now, plus the one you see over my shoulder, kind of passing into a very entry-level electric vehicle status. Let's see, Chase commercial. Interested in Marquis. Awesome. Yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, with the ranges coming into 250 miles plus and pushing above 300 miles, I think 2021's the year where we start to see you know, a bunch of comparable vehicles. So we start to have choice. You know, when I was having the conversation with a few people on Twitter earlier this year, we just took a step back and started to note we have options now. It's not just, you know, I got in a Bolt initially because the Model 3 wasn't around. There was nothing that would do 200 plus miles, you know, on a single charge. 2017, this was the only option. There was a rumored Nissan Leaf upgrade, which was still in its first generation at the time. But even that, the 60 kilowatt or above 60 kilowatt hour pack didn't appear until 2019. So, you know, a lot of this stuff, this was the only option, you know, and it's been a great car, you know. That's why we got into a 2020 after the 2017 lease ended, because it served us very well. But my family is bigger now, you know, we have 2 kids, a dog, and once these road trips start up again over to Ohio, we're going to need, you know, the space that these bigger crossovers allow. So you already have the Model Y, which has sadly departed here, but, you know, you could see from the side profile with the Model 3, it's the, you know, the height, the extra room in the back, and just it's that bigger form factor that's going to be useful for families. Same will you know, apply to the Mach-E, same will apply to the ID4. Bolt EUV, I hope, you know, we just don't know enough about it yet to really, other than the comes with Super Cruise, and it's going to be built on the Bolt EV's, you know, BEV2 platform, so it's going to be solid, I think, but we just need to know more about it. Everything that's been teased so far has been kind of, you know, eyebrow raising, really. They showed the headlights, as a lot of manufacturers do. Sneak peek. They showed the energy flow screen, which is one of the least inspiring screens on the Bolt EV. My son likes to play with it sometimes to see the rolling energy going in and out of the car, but other than that, it's not like an essential feature of the Bolt EV as it is right now. So it'll be interesting to see what else they promote. But I think the EUV has some potential. You know, we just need to know more about it. Kind of like the Nissan Ariya, although we've seen inside it, and it looks pretty nice. A lot of the conversation with the Ariya is where does it fit in? You know, if the ID4 is the budget version because it has the, you know, 39,000 kind of starting point plus the full federal tax credit plus 3 years free charging on Electrify America, then if the Mach-E is the kind of performance, slightly more expensive Model Y competitor, where does the Ariya fit in with that? You know, 300 miles, great. $40,000 price point for the base version, possibly a little bit steep perhaps for Nissan's level of quality, but again, they may knock it out of the park. They may make a move to EVs being more of a you know, premium kind of cabin for them and that kind of thing. So we'll wait and see that. Let's see what else we've got here. Apologies if my throat is drying out here. I'll have to keep sipping here. What else have we got? Mach-E Model Y sales. Model Y is going great guns. I mean, I think we're going to be really surprised. They may well, with Tesla hit 500,000 for 2020 sales. A lot of people are still, saying the Model Y is going to be the EV of 2021. Remember, Tesla wasn't intending to deliver it until fall of 2020. Obviously, they managed to find some efficiencies and get volume production up much quicker and deliver in March. Then kind of still, even with the disruption to the pandemic, really, have gone great guns to deliver that. So we've seen tons of them around here. It's not even really a notable sighting anymore. And people kind of chimed in on Twitter that they're seeing them all over the nation, whereas it was with the Model 3, it was very California centric, then obviously employees and family and colleagues, then it slowly trickled over to the East Coast, and we saw them eventually get into the Midwest. The Model Y seems to have just gone nationwide from the summer. Everybody seemed to be driving one across the East Coast and West Coast, so I don't even, and internally my family was seeing them in Ohio, in parking lots and grocery stores over the summer. So you have to kind of give some kudos to Tesla for making that rollout happen so fast. Mach-E sales, I think they were targeting, I think they started with a $20,000 production figure globally. They ramped it up to 50,000. Whether or not that happens, I mean, they've only just delivered a few, so they do have a full year here. I think with it being a global brand, Ford, and, having those in Europe and North America, we may well see, thousands a month. Wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. I mean, the Bolt EV managed, a couple of thousand for its peak during some of the, when there wasn't as much available, but I think, there's a much bigger pool. We're trying to win over gasoline drivers now rather than just, EVs cannibalizing from EVs. So the sky's the limit, really, but I wouldn't expect, there'll probably be a ramp. I don't think they're going to be able to produce too many of them up, the first 6 months. So you're probably looking at, let's say, maybe 30,000 for this year. And again, North America versus global is the kind of difficult thing to judge there. But I think it'll be up there. The Aria isn't coming until very late in 21. The ID4 has been delayed now until March, and that's going to take some time to get up to volume production when they eventually go to Chattanooga in Tennessee. So yeah, I think probably that will take a while as well. Mach-E should have some good figures up front, and then you'll start to see people cross-shopping, Y, ID4, Mach-E, maybe even the Aria and the Volt EUV as they arrive. Let's see what else. Thanks for the channel and content. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you guys for watching. It's amazing to me. I started this channel out of context just a couple of years ago for a winter perspective, if you like. Another whilst we're shouting out great channels, Eric at News Coolum was one of the reasons I got into a Bolt TV in the first place. Aside from the fact that it was one of the only cars available at the time, he gave us the confidence. I think probably a lot of Bolt TV owners have watched his videos, seen him going up into the mountains and proving that this was possible even with limited 50 kilowatt infrastructure. So yeah, it's one of the reasons that I started my channel, because Eric, for all his expertise, and obviously with 100,000 plus miles on the Bolt, he knows everything there is to know about it now, but he doesn't get as many cold conditions. And I came across a few things that I was like, Eric would probably have mentioned this. It's something that would have been on the News Coolum channel had it been freezing in SoCal. So aside from him going up to North California and experiencing snow here and there, I wanted to kind of document initially the winter experience with the Bolt EV and electric vehicles in general, and it kind of grow from there. So this is where we are right now. 2020 was a lot about the 2020 Bolt EV, going down to fully charged live, doing the long distance travel, and then covering some of the stuff in winter with this car. But looking at now getting into more of the new EVs, the Polestar 2 and Mach-E I already mentioned. ID4 I'd love to get into and have a drive. So if anyone watches this and has one of those cars coming up, or is interested in lending me one for a little while, I'm happy to kick the tires, so to speak. And we have another Bolt pulling in. He will be out of luck, unfortunately, so he's gonna have to go over there. You won't see him. He's got a hitch on the back, so it looks like they might be using the... Oh, maybe he'll pull in. Oh, he's going to pull in. Anyhow, I'll crack on. There you go. It's too busy. Where is the accent from? It is UK. I'm from... originally, I was born on Merseyside. go Everton. I moved to Bristol for a little while, so it hybridized a little bit. And then my parents are up in Lancashire now, so whenever we go back, we are kind of Lancashire, Yorkshire based. So I've rented a Renault Zoe over there a couple of years ago, and there's a company called eVision Rentals, which has a place up in Yorkshire, so that's where I'm hoping to go over and get stuff like the, if we get over this year, we'll look at the ID3, take a look at maybe the cars like the Peugeot E208, a few other things that won't come to the States because they're kind of these hatchbacks that people apparently don't want or aren't as likely to buy. Let's see what else we've got. Oh, I helped you lease a 2020. I hope it goes very well for you. Yeah, if you've got any questions, about local charging spots, let us know. This is a good one to come to, but obviously it's pretty full. This was a good place to start the channel today, I think. Let's see. Lots of DC charger activity observed in Michigan. Yes, Michigan has changed just extremely over the last 6 months. We were planning before everything hit and the kind of shutdowns happened to go up to the Upper Peninsula and see if we could drive it, even with just a, level 2s, campground, that kind of thing mentality. It's changed extremely. There was one charging site in Gaylord, Michigan, which was looking, promising, with just one charge point, a few stations there. And in the last couple of months, Electrify America has moved in. The VW Dieselgate funds are being spent at a state level in a lot of those kind of North, Mitten, Upper Peninsula areas. There's still going to be, I think the Upper Peninsula, by the looks of it, still has a big, vast swathe, which is going to be kind of a gap over until you get that site up in Norway, in Michigan. But it looks good. It looks a lot easier to do than it did 6 months ago, certainly. Do you think we'll see EV sale car? 3 to 4%. I was looking at the numbers actually. I mean, a year is a small amount of time to kind of measure these things. But Tesla has volume production of the Model Y down now. It looks like that's only going to be factoring into how many they can sell and improving the quality a little bit, hopefully. GM is obviously starting to push towards higher numbers to contribute to that. My notes were basically that I think it's going to take a concerted push from all manufacturers who are interested in EVs. So you're talking Ford, Volkswagen, GM, across a bunch of brands, and then the new guys, Lucid and Rivian, kind of coming in and getting deliveries, by summer 2021 to make a real impact. But we could, we're at 2% now in the US at least. I think, 3% is manageable if everyone kind of sticks to their schedules. 4%, 5% might be pushing it for 2021, but I think you are going to start to see this, acceleration. There's going to be a lot of these companies really trying to get their foot into the, get a foothold in the EV space. 2021 won't be the year it all turns around and everybody starts to deliver EVs en masse, but it's going to be, as 2020 was the year of companies like Audi, or brands like Audi getting into the space and proving the e-tron could, cope with the rigors of fast charging, that kind of thing. And a certain number of models being announced, if not delivered. I think you are now starting to see a number of brands at least pay the lip service enough, with models, starting to say that these models are coming out, these are going to be on the ground, and they will kind of live or die by their efficiency. I think, we've proved, I think some, good channels have proved that you can do a decent road trip in the e-tron because of its charging curve. It sounds, with the initial reports of the Volvo XC40 Recharge, like it's going to be a bit too hungry to really road trip well. It all comes down to the charging curve once you get to these decent sized 250 mile EVs that are premium in that category, where they're a heavy vehicle, they're luxury, so they have to have all these creature comforts. They need to have a fast charging curve, because if they don't, and if they're stuck on, the I-pace kind of charging, then, 100 kilowatts or below, and not really getting up to speed quickly enough, then you're going to have the same problems or very similar problems that you have in a Volt EV on a road trip. You're going to be stopped for 40, 50 minutes. And I don't think you're going to win over that next generation of people who are not as patient as us, who don't want to wait at a charger for that long and walk around a Walmart or whatever else, you have in your area. hello to the EV side, another UK-based channel, lots of folks over there. EV side, you can look for not just electric vehicle content, but also I think Simon, if I'm getting your name right, I hope that's accurate, does a lot of e-skate, that kind of thing, so check out his videos for that. Let's see, Dieselgate is going to massively change the game. Yeah, I mean, it already has to an extent. I mean, if you think about, I did a video comparing 2018, you know, going across upstate New York to what we have now. I mean, upstate New York would still be one of those areas where there are gaps, but Electrify America in many areas has completely, you know, put DC fast charging on the map. You know, if it wasn't for them, there would be nothing in Alabama by the sound of it. You know, there's not very many just at dealerships and a few, you know, metro area. So all of the, prior to Electrify America, all of the public charging in the US was kind of centered around metro areas and, you know, EV friendly states. Now you're talking, they just said, right, if we need to put one in the middle of Arkansas or at a coffee shop in the middle of Utah, that's what we need to do to get across the country. And that's pretty much the only network that will do that in the US right now. And then you're starting to see, depending on the state, you know, some places have spent their VW funds pretty well. So you look at Maine locally as a good example, where they've put in charging infrastructure to get people to Canada and back, up and down the coast at rest areas. So, you know, that's all come from VW funds on a state level. Then you get places like Pennsylvania, which really could use, you know, Electrify America is the only game in town there. They could use a lot more redundancy and support in places like State College, Altoona, down across the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Electrify America is the only option there, but those funds have been going into either clean diesel, if you like, or, you know, cleaner combustion fuels, or just kind of around Pittsburgh, around Philadelphia, areas which really don't need it. You know, you're going to be able to charge in those places on EVgo or on Electrify America's existing sites. There's always going to be a plug for you there. But for cross-state travel, we need to see those states, and the ones that just haven't got anything, places like, you know, West Virginia, Wyoming, Idaho to an extent, I think is on that list. Come up a little bit more on the state level and start to put that infrastructure in with the funds they've got. And you see, if you look up in North Dakota, there's some really good stations there that, you know, Electrify America hasn't even reached there yet, but the state level funds have been spent well, and you're starting to get them in the towns around that. You know, it may only be a single charge point station up to 50 or 62.5 kilowatts, but, you know, you start to have the infrastructure people need to get across the state to bring tourism in electric vehicles to the state. And that's the next step, really, you know, finding those gaps and starting to give them either, you know, the first station they need or just some redundancy to back up the Electrify America stations that have gone in. So let me take a breath here. Southern region of Texas, Electrify America. So I think, yeah, I've spoken to Bolt TV owner down on San Padre Island. And that one of the, I'll do a video on this in future, that's one of the areas that got a lot of submissions for Electrify America's Cycle 3 investment. We've talked in a few videos about how they spend their money, and Cycle 2, the investment, which is finishing up this year, has been mostly focused on metro areas, expanding that, you know, around cities, certain chosen cities. But if they have still filled in regional routes, you know, there are still areas like some areas of New York State, places in Alabama and Utah, as I said, where they've finished these cross-country runs. But I do think they're still looking at these suggestions. You know, they did a presentation on a bunch of these submissions that they got for Cycle 3 investment. And they were scattered around all the places, you know, these states where there aren't any public CCS chargers or a very few. And South Texas was one of those areas. So, yeah, let's see. I don't know what that's about, but whatever floats your boat. Have those in Tulsa. They're from a company called Freewire. Yeah, I've seen those Freewire stations. There's a few companies on my list to check out that we just don't have locally around here. That, you know, there's some charging equipment that I don't see very regularly. So I'd like to kind of get out to those sites and see what we can find this year once travel is a bit easier. What else on my list? Volta fast charging. I guess they were supposed to move into fast charging last year. I'm sure it got shut down because a lot of their sites are mall and retail focused, so there wasn't much opportunity to get those out and running. But this is a network that is offering free charging, fast charging up to 100 kilowatts for 30 minutes. So if that starts to, become a model, then they're supported by ad funding and investment from ad sponsors. So we'll see if that kind of starts to move up a little bit. And again, I would only think that's really going to be metro area charging, because these are companies that need to have charging stations in areas with a high footfall. Tickets for Fully Charged Live. Yeah, I mean, it's I was thinking we'd look again at the next iteration in Austin. It's mid-September, so all travel plans are kind of on the table at the moment. I need to fit in trips over to the Midwest, to England, and I've got a lot of people kind of hoping we'll go visit this year. So if I can do it in a car, all the better. And if it's down to Texas, then I enjoyed that trip. Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it makes sense to install dual unit charge point locations across a state, or fewer EA locations? By dual unit charge point locations, are we talking DC fast charging? The kind of Charge Point Express 250s? I would go with the EA locations at the moment, just because they have the kind of know-how and the redundancy. I think if we see an influx in cars, and people who want to road trip their cars, I'd like to see 4 stalls be the minimum for the next level. 4 stalls and a focus on higher power charging, 150 kilowatts becoming the norm. I think, yeah, the 250s. I think the reason that they're going with those charge point stations is because Charge Point has the best software, and it's the most manageable by host sites. They, in a lot of these cases where the state is spending the money, they need to be able to control the payment, be able to change the how much it costs to charge there, and see the utilization. If you look at the Charge Point app, I challenge anyone to find a better electric vehicle charging app for pure functionality. Whether it works as well for you or not, I don't know, but they have power graphs in there. They show accurately when the vehicles, which vehicle and when it was using it. You can change these settings on a dime, and it's all, for anyone who hasn't really seen much of Charge Point, they are almost more of a software and equipment company. They don't have the network strategy. They're not trying to put necessarily their stations in certain places. They allow the host site to say, we want to use your equipment and software, and then they roll that out according to their specifications and plans. So when you see people moaning about the Charge Point network, it's not really that they didn't choose to put in a location in the middle of Utah. It's just that nobody else has opted to buy equipment from them for it. But I think, I like Charge Point as the most reliable network that I use. I never have a feeling that when I pull up to a Charge Point station, it's not going to work. They offer the best app support for me, and but to the extent that Electrify America has problems, it's mostly because they are so heavily used, and they're in these areas where nobody else has really been willing to go and willing to put the public network in those places. So I think we have to give Electrify America a bit of a pass on that, just to figure out the growth spurts, and at least put in these 4 stalls, high power stations, and I think they're probably the most future-proof network. But Charge Point for me has more reliability going forward. Let's see. Yeah, Charge Point is they just provide the stuff. They're basically provide equipment, provide software, and let the site owners figure it out. But they do seem to give a a lot of support. They're a public company now, so they have a lot of investment flowing that way. So I think we may see strategy change from them this year and start to do more on their own. But it seems to be a model that they've been around for as long as I've been driving electric vehicles and a lot before that. So they're certainly working. And the fast charging equipment is great. It's reliable. It's the pairs point here that you see in the comment from Dennis. Thanks for that. If you see an individual station that's 62.5 kilowatts, they can be paired up to deliver, what are we at, 125 kilowatts then. So you can make these sites, structured so that they can deliver a faster charging experience for cars that can take it. Some of the Evolve New York sites are doing that as well. There are a few that charge faster if you don't have a car on the station next to it. But again, there's so few cars that they've tested those with yet. It's hard to know what happens if a bunch of different EVs pull up at the same time. But let's see, I wanted to make sure I cover all the aspects I looked at for this video. Obviously, please keep asking questions if you have anything you want to know. So we talked a lot about the various EVs for 2021. We touched on legislation, done a lot about EV charging. We haven't mentioned EVgo, which is interesting. That does they started off being the go-to network for anybody who wanted to travel around. And as I mentioned, Eric's videos, you look at his road trips from 2017, 2018, they were all EVgo 50 kilowatts. EVgo partnered last year with GM to triple the size of their network. They're talking about 2,700 new plugs specifically. You get into this a little bit, inaccurate kind of statements. I don't know if plugs really makes that much difference. We're talking about how many, new sites will there be to an extent is more compelling for me. But, they wanted to talk about tripling the size of their network. So if you take that 2,700 plugs, divide it by 4 per site, assuming that's what they'll do, you're talking about around 675 stations or sites. So that's going to be on their 800 at the moment. They would still be the largest charging public service or public charging provider in the US with that number. Electrify America is looking at around 800, either on the map or activated by the end of 2021. So you see, depends how quickly EVgo really pushes this and gets the equipment rolled out. But they were talking more about metro areas as well. So you start to get this slight lingering concern that there's a lot of projects focused on city charging, which could help, for people who are apartment dwellers or don't have a garage that they can park in or rely on charging at home. This could be very useful, and we do need some extra infrastructure in cities. I've got a video coming up in the next couple of days which looks at every fast charging option CCS on the Mass Pike, and there's only really 2 in downtown Boston, so there's a limited amount there. But again, this is how much do you cater to metro areas versus the road trip kind of potential on highways where places don't even have a sniff of EV charging at the moment. Let's see what else we got. 2020 Volt EV charge taper versus 1719. Difference in time saved on the trip a little bit, down to Texas. I certainly think I shaved off 5 minutes here or there. Not greatly. I mean, it's nicer to have. It makes sense. I think most of the electric vehicles you see coming out now have the taper instead of the step down. Just for anyone who isn't familiar with the Volt EVs vicissitudes, it's the 2017, 18, and 19 models step down at around 50-55%. You'd see a step down in power, and then higher up into the curve they would be immediate step down. So you'd go from 55 kilowatts down to around 40, and now it tapers off in the 2020, so you'll slowly see it 49, 48, 47. There's no sudden drop, which makes sense, and you fill in that gap between the taper and the step down, and you have a slightly faster charging experience. But again, if you're in this car with its Achilles heel being the fast charging rate, limited up to a maximum of 55 kilowatts in optimal conditions, that's where you start to get you know, you're going to be in longer stops. You just have to, if you need to go 200 miles or 150 miles, whatever it is, to the next charger, you just sit and let it do its thing, and you probably have planned a meal stop or a walk around town or whatever it is that, you know, you do on those kind of stops. So on that journey, I didn't really, you know, feel it was much of a difference. But again, we still got from Austin, Texas to the East Coast in 2 days. I think it was. We left, what was it? Yeah, left early Monday, and we were up in New Jersey for a work meeting by the Tuesday evening. So yeah, it was quick. And again, you know, if you're covering that kind of distance, the Volt EV isn't the ideal vehicle, but it can certainly do it. You just have a little patience, and you know, you maybe shave off a few minutes, but if you're traveling a long way, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference to your time saved. Anything about Telus chargers, Francis? No, I'm going to be able to take a lot away from this. There's a few, you know, the FreeWire ones mentioned, the Telus here. There's a bunch of new equipment. Tritium just did a big launch in December, maybe November, about their latest, you know, huge high-powered station. So there's a bunch I need to update on. We do get a bit into the weeds of, you know, it doesn't necessarily interest anyone who is new to EVs, but certainly a lot of people who've, you know, been on the roads in their electric cars like to see the different stations and like to know, you know, who's behind them and what kind of equipment is coming up. So I'll definitely take all these names, thank you, and put them on a list to do some research about. What else? I wanted to touch also on the importance of used EVs, because it gets overlooked a little bit, I think. You know, for when I was buying the Bolt, all you could really get was, you know, used first generation Leaf, and a few kind of, maybe the Kia Soul EV, Fiat 500e. So you were limited very much in the $5,000, $10,000 price range to cars that really couldn't go above 100 miles and, you know, had that real first generation electric vehicle limitations. Now you're starting to see, you know, I mean, aside from the Bolt, which is a great, you know, bargain used, if you can find one $15,000 in a lot of markets or below, they don't tend to have a whole lot of miles on them. You know, there's a lot of the lease returns are at 30, 40,000 miles. And with that, you know, you've got a big lifetime in front of you. The warranty is gone, but you still have, you know, a lot of people are doing, you know, 100, 200,000 miles. I say a lot of people, some people have, and I do think a lot of people will go, you know, six-figure miles in a Bolt before you really start to see any degradation that's really going to impact your use case. So, you know, as a used EV, a Bolt is perfect, except for the fact that they're discounting the new 2020s, or have been discounting the 2020s so hard that you can get into them for $20,000 in some areas. So you start to see, you know, do you pay that few $1,000s extra to get into the car that has the 66 kilowatt hour pack with the, you know, slight range increase, better fast charging, that kind of thing. It's only a minor increase, but I do think, you know, at $20,000 a new Bolt for 2020 makes sense. But, you know, used, these things are a bargain. I think they're well worth looking at. But now you also have, you're starting to see the Nissan Leaf, the second gen, which has a larger pack, able to, you know, go a bit further, and you're starting to see them around that same price as the Bolt, $15,000, or, you know, between that, $10,000 to $15,000. Which I think is a good deal as well, except for the fact that, you know, Leaf and CHAdeMO is potentially a problem in the future. But if you're using this as a second car, you know, a around town commuter car, that really doesn't matter so much. You charge at home, you use the local level 2 infrastructure, and in that case, any of these cars that meet your needs start to make sense. And, you know, you'll have a lot of time where you won't even have to recharge if it's got the larger pack on a Bolt or the 62 kilowatt hour Leaf. You start to get into a case where you maybe only charge once a week, if that, even if you don't have home charging. So I think, you know, anyone who's, you know, feeling that kind of burden of EVs still have a price premium. You know, you see all the headlines of these new cars coming out, and affordable is considered $40,000, $45,000, which is not a reality for some people. You know, used EVs can start to make a lot of sense now. We're getting into that place where there are, you know, BMW i3s really nice car, you know, inside. If the space, you know, limitations aren't a problem, you can get into a very nice, you know, electric vehicle, even some of them with the range extender, gasoline range extender, for $15,000 or less. What else do we have? In the used market, you know, you also still got some discontinued cars. Volkswagen E-Golf was one, you know, but a lot of people swear by that. There's one on our road that the owners love by all accounts. Chevy Volt, we came from a one of our family members having a Gen 1 Chevy Volt, still running really well for them, and the Generation 2 still gets something like 50 or 60 miles on all electric range, plus you have the backup of the gasoline engine there if that's not something that puts you off. And they're still, you know, still a good deal, but obviously with a discontinued car, you start to think, you know, am I going to have problems getting parts? Is it going to be difficult to service? So that's something to keep in mind. But if you want a nice electric vehicle that has, you know, some maybe backup with the gasoline engine, either the Rex on the i3 or the Volt are both good options. And then what else have we got? What did we charge time? We did. What sparked your interest in EVs? Yeah, good segue actually. Thank you. With the Volt was the first EV we kind of drove, if you like, regularly. So we had that with my brother-in-law who lived with us for a little bit, and it was just, you know, the idea that you could even using a short range like that, and I think in winter you'd get maybe 30 miles out of his because it was a 2012 2013 model, something like that. So it's not necessarily, you know, going to suit everybody, but you could go without gas for your commutes, and locally it was a lot of fun, you know, just the immediate instant torque, quieter running, all this kind of stuff. And you know, we did think about a Volt as a, you know, bridge car of our own, maybe getting the second generation, but the idea of having the half measures, you know, having something that was also going to rely on maintenance, you know, regular maintenance schedule and emissions testing and all that kind of stuff was just, it seemed inelegant at that point. You know, we wanted to see if we could get into a electric vehicle for our regular family life, and it worked. You know, the 2017 Volt EV, for all its limitations that people will, you know, chip away at, worked perfectly as a car for that period of 2017, 2018, 2019. We had the lease, and again, you know, this car isn't significantly different. It's still got the same size, same shape, so we have still working with the same limitations, but it gets us on our road trips. You know, we've been to Canada, over to the Midwest a lot, you know, obviously took this down to Texas, and as long as you can live with those kind of limits of this, you know, middle generation of electric vehicle, I think it ticks, you know, 90% of the boxes for a lot of people. And if you're, you know, just as a weekly commuter, this really doesn't need to be charged that often, as long as you have one of those regular commutes that's 30-40 mile. You know, we don't, I work remotely, my wife cycles to work, so we don't have that commute limitation, but we still have a lot of local errands in normal times. You know, we have the kids going to their sports practices, we have grocery runs, we have all the things that you do, you know, with a family car. And electric, you know, completely ticks all those boxes locally. There is literally no downside to me to having an electric car, unless, you know, if you can charge at home, if you have your own driveway, that kind of thing, that it may start to get a little bit more tricky with apartment dwellers, you know, multi-unit dwellings, that kind of thing. But again, where I can, we charge locally because I like to see the infrastructure and like to you know, test things out. And it's, most of our charging does happen still on the public network. You know, Electrify America is moving in a lot more into cities. You have a lot of networks promising to do the same. ChargePoint hosts sites everywhere with level 2. So for people in cities that have some kind of electric vehicle program or have an interest in expanding their use, then I don't see it as a problem at all. Let's see. What else? Oh, I've just realized I'm pushing beyond an hour, so I'm impinging on time a little bit. I'll try and answer any more questions here and cover any last things that I had on my list, and then I'll call it a day. Let's see. e-trons, yeah, I didn't touch upon the premium end of the market. What you're going to see is, we're talking about the high end of electric vehicles with the Audi e-tron, the Jaguar I-Pace, cars that outside of Tesla, obviously they have a different depreciation curve because they're on their own kind of production schedule and a different value proposition. But e-tron I-Pace was the first car that really started to just plummet in price for used. People who were selling those for whatever reason. You started to see what is a $70,000 or $80,000 car available for in the 50,000s. Now, there's not many of them, so you're going to have to pick and choose your battles. But, if someone really wanted to get into an Audi e-tron, really wanted to get into a Jaguar I-Pace, you're going to start to see people who say, well, why limit it to, 200 miles of range when I can get a Mach-E for, the same price or less with 300 miles of range, or any of these others that start to come out. Those middle generation bridge EVs, if you like, e-trons, I-Pace, maybe even the Taycan at some point, although I can't really imagine getting a used Taycan for too cheap. But those are going to start to be good deals. So if you're in that market and you don't mind dealing with the kind of developing tech, not quite there yet, slower charging for the I-Pace, that kind of thing, or just, less efficiency for the e-tron, things like that, then you can find some good deals on those cars as well. What else do we have? What's Tesla makes this 4680 cells? Do you think a sub 30k Tesla? It's going to be possible. I think if Tesla is saying 3 years for a 25k car, then it's going to be at least that. I don't think they have a great interest in getting into the bun fight of the affordable EV market. I think they wanted to put that out as a mile marker with the Model 3 and say, $35,000 price point plus the federal tax credit. This was what it was way back in, when we were shopping for EVs first of all. I think they wanted to put that down as a challenge to other EV makers, and that's why you see the Volt coming in at that kind of area of price, and other makers trying to hit that sub 40k. But Tesla, subsequent to that, they delivered it really briefly. You had a $35,000 model that you had to give a wink and a handshake and go around the back of the Tesla service center to get. I think they've moved away from that, and you see with the Tesla Model Y not really having, them saying that they don't want to deliver a standard range version of that, and it's not really on their roadmap to deliver the cheaper Tesla Model Y quickly. I think they're starting to realize that their future or immediate future for profitability lies in the $40,000-$50,000 luxury or premium technology, you want to call it. Tesla's not really a luxury car to me, but it is premium tech. So you have, I think they're going to stick in that space for a while, work on the Cybertruck, work on getting, quality issues up a little bit. And then maybe you'll start to see them shift as they get their next technologies to get the battery down to a place where they can produce a $25,000-$30,000 car very profitably. That makes more sense to me than trying to shoehorn it into the next, few years, because that's not their market right now. They've got the Model Y to really advance. They've got the Cybertruck to work on. They need to push out the next level of their upper priced cars to really be profitable. Oh, Elijah's here, yeah. So Elijah has just picked up a Model 3, so I'd be interested in his experiences. I think he's really into the comparison because he started off in a Bolt, but that $25,000 car, I honestly don't see that coming in the next 2 years. I think they're going to have so much else to focus on, roadster and semis notwithstanding. I just don't, unless they have, such success that they can scale in every single direction. They've still got global production to figure out, to get the Berlin Gigafactory up. They've got Texas to work on with the Cybertruck. They may be at such a scale now that they can deliver on all fronts. I just think there's still some focus on those projects that they'd rather have. Elon's time, yeah. I don't know though, Matt. I said, Model 3, he was late on that, but Model Y, Elon time doesn't exist anymore. They delivered 6 months early, so, come back and, rub my nose in it by all means. I'm happy to be proved wrong. If there's a $25,000 Tesla by the end of 2022, I will be the first to eat humble pie. Let's see what else we've got here. First EV 2017 Bolt. Never loved a car more. Yeah, great. I'm glad. You know, the Bolt gets a lot of criticism, and I know that it doesn't fit everyone's lifestyle. People who want to road trip in it have had some frustrating experiences. I really haven't. You know, I just, it's such a good starter EV for the price. You know, again, you've got to kind of take that MSRP of 37,000, whatever it is now, with a grain of salt, because it really, the deep discounts, you know, the lease deals that are on right now, the used EV prices for the 2017s, it's dirt cheap. You know, this is an entry level EV in the same way that the Nissan Leaf, you know, has become that as well. But with CCS, with a bigger range, you know, it hits the mark on everything it needs to for a reliable, competent EV. And we have the recall, you know, over our heads, that kind of thing. But everything else, you know, it checks so many boxes. If you want a road trip in it, you just need a bit of patience. It's going to, you know, suck in winter sometimes for the moment, but, you know, infrastructure is increasing. The car itself has been rock solid for us, and, you know, it would be a shame if we didn't have one in our driveway, as far as, you know, I'm concerned, at least. I know other people have their problems with the car, but I'm happy with it, have always been happy with it, and would, you know, always be happy to have one in the driveway. Lease under 10. Yeah, 10,000 miles. I mean, you've got years ahead in that. If you keep it, it's going to keep going. And 16k in cash it's just a great starter EV. You know, anyone who wants to get into to see whether an electric vehicle works for them without laying out, you know, the price of a new EV, it's a great place to start. Yeah, I think unless there's any other questions, I'm going to sign off. I don't want to impinge on anyone's time. A lot of, you know, regular names here. I really appreciate everybody watching last year. It's a difficult year for everybody, and you know, I think in general EVs have at least continued the march forward. 2021, I hope, on all levels, personal, professional, and, you know, marching forward to electrification of transport is going to be a lot better this year. So yeah, let me just answer the last questions here, and thank you for watching. If you watched the video last year, clicked a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, watched any of the ads for gas trucks that inevitably pop up bizarrely on an EV video, I appreciate it. It all helps this channel grow a little bit, you know, and obviously this year I want to get into as many EVs as possible in the UK, Europe, North America, wherever I can go. Any suggestions, anybody wants me to get into any particular type of car on, you know, as a priority, let me know, and I will do my best to do that. Opinion on every Electrify America having one Tesla cable. I just think it makes more sense for Tesla to have a CCS adapter at this point. We covered it a bit earlier in the live stream, but it's Evolve New York's doing this, as you probably know, with some of the stations having the Tesla adapter on a wire. I feel like theft could be a problem. Sometimes the spacing doesn't work out. It seems like such a faff to have that on the charging site, have them have to cater to it. Supercharger network does the job, you know, for 95% of the time. The rest of the time, if people really do want to road trip to these, you know, few places that don't have it, CHAdeMO makes some sense, or just Tesla's going to have to just release the adapter for CCS, because it opens up a whole new world of, you know, backup charging. And I think then it's hard for anyone to argue that Tesla doesn't have, you know, universal access to everything. So, and most Tesla owners can probably afford, you know, the $500, $600 to grab that adapter. So you should be in good shape. Yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it. I you know, have started 2021 hopefully well here, and any suggestions you have for the channel, I'm more than happy to take them. Comments here below the video if you're watching this afterwards. plugandplayev@gmail.com for any emails you want to send. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter to a lesser extent at plugandplayev. And yeah, happy new year to you. Enjoy your coffee, and look forward for the next videos coming out in the weekend. Cheers.